The Braves worst to first?
With the NBA season drawing to a close, a bunch of teams are vying for the last playoff spot in their respective conferences. Find out how far these teams can go.
And bringing you the NHL Playoff Preview tonight on BSPN. Welcome to another edition of BSPN. Along with Jeremy Vella and Mike Bergner, I'm Brett Melman. Before we start, first let me congratulate Baxter the Bearcat on winning Mascot Madness. Baxter was named the top SUNY mascot, compiling over 2,000 votes. So best wishes out to the BU Zoo, to the athletic department, and to all of Binghamton University on a job well done. All right, let's get right into the action.
Round of applause.
So the NHL kicks off its playoffs this week, starting on Wednesday night with a handful of games, and the next series beginning on Thursday night. So let's take a look at some of the series. All right, let's jump right into the series. We begin on Wednesday night
With the New York Islanders at Washington Capitals. What do you think, Brett?
So this series is going to basically come down to goaltending. Both teams have very powerful offenses. One led by goal scorer John Tavares, who just got outwitted on the last night of the season for the Art Ross Trophy, which awards the most points in the league. And the other side is Alex Ovechkin, who's one of the most dominant players in hockey, having the most goals. And so this is going to end up coming down to goaltending. Who has the stronger defense? Who has the stronger goalie? Braden Holtby for the Capitals, Yaroslav Halak for the Islanders. Right now I see the Islanders winning in 6 games. Could take the 7th game for them to win, but the Capitals are right now the favorite team. I'm going to go with the underdog, the Islanders.
Okay, well, I see the Capitals taking this one in 5 over the Islanders. You're right, it will probably come down to goaltending, but I think the Capitals are the more experienced team in the playoffs here, and I think that's going to be a big factor. Ovechkin having experience, but even though he has 450 goals, he has the second fewest games out of anyone with that number. So he doesn't get very far in the playoffs when he makes it in his 9-year career, but I think he's going to win the first round, and the Capitals are going to take over the Islanders.
Yeah, I could see the Caps taking this series in 6. Yeah, the Islanders, they've been playing well all year, but towards the end of the season, it looked like they got a little rundown, and they didn't exactly limp into the playoffs, but, I'm not exactly pleased with, how they played down the stretch, so I think the Capitals will take this one.
Yeah, of course. And the Islanders are a much smaller team than the Capitals, which is definitely going to hurt them. They also only have 1 year out of the last 8 seasons that they've made the playoffs. So these young guys who weren't on the team 8 years ago, they've had no playoff experience. They had that great 6-game series with the Penguins a couple of years ago, but really they're young kids. They don't have the experience. Travis Hamonic recently came out with injury after getting hit the other night in Pittsburgh, and so they're going to replace him with the young kid Griffin Reinhart, who just came up to the NHL for a couple of games, and so we'll see if the kid gets the play. Another name to look out for is Ryan Pulak. He's also been tearing it up in Bridgeport, and so he's a big defender. If he comes up, he could make some noise.
What do you think about the other series in the East, Ottawa versus Montreal?
Well, Ottawa is definitely the hot team coming in. They've won their last 3 games, but really you look at the goaltending, Andrew Hammond has been amazing, and then you have Mark Stone, who's an MVP candidate, or definitely at least Rookie of the Year candidate, and so they're right now the hot team. However, I do see them running into trouble in Montreal. It's definitely going to be one for Canada, remember, but I have Montreal in 5.
Okay. Yeah, Canada versus Canada here. I'm going to go with the Canadians, though. I'm going to say that it's going to be a 7-game series. It's going to be hard fought, kind of like you might see Yankees-Red Sox type thing going on.
Yeah, and I think Ottawa, when they have Andrew Hammond, like you mentioned, in net, they're almost unbeatable, so I think they could win this series in 6. The defense that they play is very impressive, and they kind of remind me of a team like the Kings from a few years ago that is getting hot at the right time, and if they can keep up that goaltending, of course Andrew Hammond is not Jonathan Quick, but I think they could still win a series at least.
Right, and moving over into the West, we have the Blackhawks at Nashville, and what do you guys see going on there?
This is going to be one of the more interesting series that we see because you have a team like Chicago who has had playoff experience, Stanley Cup Finals experience within recent years. Patrick Kane right now is hurt, and so we're not sure how long he's going to be in the series, and if he plays in the series, for how long he's going to be in it. So we're really not sure of that. That's a big question mark for them. But they are playing very good hockey. But of course, you take a look on the other side of the spectrum, and Nashville's playing much better hockey. They're right now the top team in their division. They're poised for victory. I have them winning in 5.
All right, and I have the Blackhawks winning in 5 over Nashville, just based on experience.
Yeah, I agree with that. Blackhawks, it's tough to pick against them in the playoffs because, like you said, they've played well in the past few years. So I'm going with them at 6, but I think it'll also be a very well played series.
Now the other game from the West is Calgary versus Vancouver, with Vancouver being the home team in the first game.
Now Calgary kind of snuck in on the last day. They knocked out the Kings, or actually it was the second to last day, but they knocked out the Kings, which was a huge surprise to see a team who won the Stanley Cup last year get out immediately, not even have a chance to defend their title. So Calgary right now is a force to be reckoned with. I don't see them having any trouble, and I have them winning in 6.
I agree. Calgary will win. I think it's also going to be in 6, so I'm going to side with Brett on this one.
Yeah, I'm going with the Canucks in 6. I think Calgary's going to flame out. Like you said, they had to get on the last game of this season. They could be playing for, with a little momentum, but I think Vancouver has it.
And moving on to Thursday night, the first game of that night is Pittsburgh at the New York Rangers, the most winningest team in hockey this year. They won the President's Trophy. How do you guys see that going down?
Well, this series also is going to be an interesting series. You had Boston and Pittsburgh fighting for that final spot. The winner was going to play the Rangers. So Pittsburgh, of course, comes in not playing good hockey. They've been struggling their last couple games. They took a loss to the Islanders the other night, and then they got an easy way in with Buffalo. Of course you're going to beat Buffalo, who's right now the last place team. So, of course, I do think that they're going to step up. I do have the Rangers winning in 5, though, which could set up a potential Islanders-Rangers second-round matchup, which could be interesting.
Yeah, that could be interesting, Brett. I have the Rangers winning in 4. Clean sweep. Like you said, Pittsburgh just not playing well, and the Rangers playing great all year, and even seeming to get hotter towards the end of the season. So I think they have this one.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a sweep as well. Rangers finishing up 7-3 in their last 10. Even last year, they had when they played Pittsburgh in the playoffs, it was a tough series, but the Rangers got hot at the right time, and I think they're hot going into this. So I see it as a 4-game sweep over the Penguins.
And definitely don't doubt the hot goalie, because you have Henrik Lundqvist and Cam Talbot, the two-headed monster over there, which really is what works in the playoffs. You saw it a couple of years ago with Jonathan Quick. I'm sure you'll see it in that Montreal series with Carey Price. He's right now pretty hot. But definitely look for that two-headed monster in net, because if one of them goes down, there's always another backup. There's that insurance policy for the Rangers.
So the other game that night out of the East is the Detroit Red Wings versus the Tampa Bay Lightning. And what do you think on that?
Well, the Lightning, of course, are playing good hockey. The Red Wings went on a tear on their last 2 weeks of the season. I think they're an older team right now. I really see the youth in Tampa Bay's team with Jonathan Drouin along with Steven Stamkos. I see them winning. I have them winning in 6.
Yeah, I'm going with the Red Wings in this one. You mentioned their age, but with age comes experience. So I think the Red Wings can win this one in 6, but this should be another interesting series.
Yeah, I'm going to say the Lightning are going to win this. I think they're just going to be a little bit quicker on the ice, and I think that's going to help propel them into the next round. I have the Lightning in 7.
And a quick note on that, they named Peter Mrazek the starting goalie over all-star goalie Jimmy Howard for the Red Wings. So we should see, that's another two-headed monster to look out for them.
Very good point. Now moving over to the West, the Minnesota Wild versus the St. Louis Blues. How do we see that going down, guys?
Well, this is going to be a battle between Vladimir Tarasenko and the youth over of Zach Parisi and Nino Niederreiter, and Thomas Vanek, of course, bringing in veteran leadership. So I do see this coming down to a 7-game series. I'm going to take the Blues in this one because I think that they're poised to get to at least the Western Conference Finals. I do see them winning in 7.
Yeah, I think my Blues are the. I think the Blues are the team to look out for in the West. I think they can get all the way to the Stanley Cup this year. I see them winning in 6. They started out this season really hot. They were probably the best team for the first half of the season, and I think that they're going to get back to their playoff form this season.
Yeah, the Blues aren't going to be so blue after this round. I think I'm going to say it's going to be a 5-game series against Minnesota with the Blues coming out on top. They finished tied for first in their conference, so I just see them rolling right on. And the other game is the Winnipeg Jets versus the Anaheim Ducks. How do you feel about this one?
Well, Anaheim right now is the best team in the Western Conference, and so you're really playing the worst team against the best team. That's kind of how I pair them up. Winnipeg has not really gotten to the playoffs since 1996, if you want to go back, not including any of their years in Atlanta. So it should be fun for the fans, but I do see Anaheim winning in 5.
Yeah, I'll go with a clean sweep. I just think Winnipeg, they just don't have the talent to keep up with them.
I'm gonna try and go against the odds here. I'm gonna pick Winnipeg in 7. I think it's gonna. I think no matter who wins this, it's gonna be a 7-game series. I just see the Winnipeg Jets fighting hard to not be out so quick.
And of course, you take a look at most of the media that doubt a team like Winnipeg, and you saw it a couple years ago with the Islanders. For the New Yorkers that are watching right now, the Islanders were totally doubted by this red-hot Pittsburgh Penguins team with Marc-Andre Fleury, and they ended up making it a 6-game series. So Winnipeg could make it a series. I have them losing in 5, but they could make some noise.
And we move on to another exciting playoff race in the NBA from the NHL. So it's down to the wire. A couple of teams on the edge. We'll know by Wednesday what happens. What do you guys think? Who's your favorite to win it all? And that whole picture.
Yeah, we're breaking down the last spot for the West and the Eastern Conference. In the West, you have the New Orleans Pelicans and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Both tied record-wise. The Pelicans are percentage points ahead. So if the season ended right now, the Pelicans would be in the playoffs. But still 2 games left. The Pelicans are playing the Timberwolves Monday night, and the Thunder are playing Portland on Monday night in Oklahoma City. A little issue surrounding Russell Westbrook and the possible technical foul would have been his 16th of the season, and he would have been suspended for that game against Portland, which would have been a huge blow to them. But that technical foul was rescinded by the NBA. I don't know how they do that. They just decided. But he'll be able to play against Portland. And Portland, of course, they don't have anything to play for. They're locked into the 4th spot in the West. So I think Oklahoma City's going to win. I see the Pelicans winning that one on Monday. So it'll come down to the last game of the season. And I just think that the Pelicans are going to win out. They've been playing pretty well lately. Anthony Davis is a monster. And if he wants to go to the playoffs, I don't think anyone's stopping him right now.
Yeah, and you talked about the technical foul. It was an issue where he questioned a call, and the ref didn't like the way he questioned it, and just teed him up. And so I didn't think it was a technical foul when I saw it. So I'm glad to see that the league rescinded it. He definitely deserves to be in this race. Now, as far as who's getting in, I think it's going to end up being the Pelicans. While Oklahoma City might win tonight, I don't have them winning on Monday, of course. Against the Trailblazers, I still see the Trailblazers as that team that is going to make noise in the playoffs, and so I think that the Thunder get ousted on Monday night.
Yeah, when you're looking at this, you look at the star players of both teams, Russell Westbrook and Anthony Davis. Russell Westbrook, he scored 54 points Sunday night, but that wasn't enough to help his team win. I mean, even if you're scoring those prolific numbers, and he almost had another triple-double, just if it's not helping your team win, what are you really doing? And Davis helps his team win.
Yep.
So we look over in the East, where it's a very similar situation between the Brooklyn Nets and the Indiana Pacers. tied at 37 wins each, going into the last couple games of the season. You know, and the Celtics not quite locked up yet. So, what do you guys think?
Well, I think the Celtics are in, as it stands, a huge surprise. They were sort of in rebuild mode, but when they got Isaiah Thomas at the trade deadline, they carried them on his back to the playoffs. So that's very impressive. I think Brooklyn still gets in. You know, Paul George coming back for Indiana does help, but I just think that the Nets are a better team. I think they can win out and make the playoffs, which would be, you know, what would happen if they do win out. But, you know, I don't really see the Nets or the Celtics or even the Bucks, you know, going any further than just making the playoffs.
Yeah, of course. You take a look at those top teams, Atlanta and Cleveland. Nobody's going to beat them right now.
Yeah, there's a huge differential.
Especially not those three teams. So yeah, they're definitely not going to go farther than the playoffs. But I do see the Brooklyn Nets as a team that is going to sit in that 8th spot, play Atlanta. I think that Boston's going to end up with that 7th seed, which will set them up for a first-round matchup with LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers.
You know, I disagree, guys. I see the Pacers taking over the Nets for that 8th spot. I think Paul George is enough to give them that extra win that they need to get into the playoffs. Now, if they do make it, of course, they will be playing the Hawks as the 8th seed, and that's not going to be easy, so maybe they don't advance, but I think they're going to take over the Brooklyn Nets for that 8th spot, and Nets fans are going to be heartbroken, and you know what? They'll come back next year.
Of course, and you look back at the West, and whoever has that 8th spot, we forgot to mention, they're going to have to play Golden State.
And that's not fun.
And that's definitely not fun. Right now, I think that they're the best team in the league, without a doubt. And so I think that they're going to end up being in the finals. Who do you guys see as your Western Conference candidate?
That's a tough one. Obviously, Golden State's been hot all year. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, the Splash Brothers. But San Antonio's got an 11-game win streak going on right now. I think they can very well continue that into the playoffs with the experience that they have between Greg Popovich, Tony Parker, and Tim Duncan. So I think the Spurs make it to the finals. I'm going to have to say I don't think Steph Curry gets it done in the end.
Yeah, by the end of February, the Spurs were in the 7th spot out west, and now they've moved all the way up to 2nd. Typical San Antonio, you know, playing games hard when it counts, making that push to the playoffs. But Golden State, I just can't go against them in the West because they play the best offense in, you know, the entire league, and they play the best defense. And they shoot the three so well, and they're so deep. You know, even though they have that rookie head coach Steve Kerr, I just don't see anyone beating the Warriors out west.
Yeah, it'll definitely be a tough task. Now, looking back at the East, who's your candidate over there?
You know, the interesting story there is the Cleveland Cavaliers, worst to first, as some say. I mean, they have the second best record in the conference right now, but going from 15 wins last season to 51 this season, that's a reversal of numbers. That's crazy. I think it's only the 3rd time it's happened in the last 15 years or something like that. So I think LeBron and his new big three are going to get into the finals.
Yeah, it's all Cleveland in the East. You got LeBron, playoff time. This is what he does. This is what the team was built for. Kyrie Irving is going to play at a higher level, even though he doesn't have a lot of experience. I can see him stepping up. And Kevin Love, who hasn't been to the playoffs, but you know, it's Kevin Love. He's become a spot-up shooter. He's going to knock down shots, and this is the team that's going to get all the way to the NBA Finals.
Yeah, I'm taking the Cavaliers as well. I do believe that they are the best team in the East. Although I am a little hesitant with Chicago still in there. I still see Chicago as one of those teams that could make noise in the playoffs, as they always do. Jimmy Butler carrying the team right now. So they're always a team to watch.
Yeah, but you know who I feel really bad for? The Atlanta Hawks. We're saying the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to win this like it's no problem. The Hawks, though, had 60 wins. Nothing shy of a historic season. And the Golden State Warriors, 65 wins. Some would say they're having a top 5 season of all time. So I feel bad for the Hawks in this case.
Yeah, but of course you look, and how many wins do you have when the playoffs start? Nada, 0, zilch. And so you wipe the clean slate, I do think that they're going to get past the first round. I do think that they're probably going to get past the second round, but setting up a matchup with Cleveland, I don't see them defeating them.
Well, you heard it from Brett Malamud here, guys. Slate starts at 0. We'll be back right after this.
Hi, we're the Binghamton Film Initiative.
And I'm BTV.
And we have about 48 seconds to tell you about our biggest event coming this fall.
It's called a 48-hour film challenge.
48 hours to write, produce, and edit a short film.
It takes place in one weekend.
On Friday night, you write.
I'm not listening!
All day Saturday, you shoot.
Action.
What's the line again?
Then the editing begins. And if you make it, you hand it in on Sunday night.
Right on time.
Wait, that's not the right flash drive.
And we're back. And we look back a week now. The Final Four ended with Kentucky losing to Wisconsin, who advanced to the finals, who would then fall to Duke. A lot of big names from those schools ended up declaring for the draft.
Yeah, it looked like all season that Wisconsin was that one team that could really beat Kentucky, and they proved it. It was a tough matchup for Kentucky. Frank Kaminsky took over, Sam Decker was great, and Wisconsin got that win in the national semifinal. But yeah, Kentucky, you don't really want to say that the players were maybe looking ahead to the draft and looking ahead to the NBA, but it is possible. I mean, 7 players out of the 10 that really play on that team are going to the NBA, and 5 probably at least first rounders, so it's very impressive. And Calipari, you got to give him a lot of credit. He gets those one and done guys. It's the system, but it works for him.
Yeah, but apparently not that well. He still didn't win the championship. Jaleel
Well, they still had an
Okafor.
incredible season.
Yeah. Jaleel Okafor also declared for the draft, as well as Sam Decker and Frank Kaminsky. So quite a few notable names from the tournament trying to get into the NBA.
And now begins the battle for the number one pick. That right now it looks like the New York Knicks are set up for that pick. Whether they take Towns or Okafor, they're definitely going to get a great guy on their team. Who do you guys see going number 1?
Well, all season it was Jaleel Okafor, number 1 pick. Seemed like it was set in stone. But Karl Anthony Towns, playing the way he did in the tournament and down the stretch during the season, I think he's surpassed Jaleel Okafor as the number 1 prospect. People are looking at, a huge, bright future for Karl Anthony Towns. And Jaleel Okafor kind of disappeared in the tournament. And you don't want to say that for a guy who, his team won the championship probably despite him. If you want to look at it that way, because who carried that team, right? Grayson Allen,
Yeah.
Tyus Jones, Justice Winslow throughout the whole tournament, and Jaleel Okafor was a side note. And if you want to be the number 1 player in the NBA draft, you have to step up in the tournament, and he didn't do it.
It almost seemed like he was nonchalant about the whole thing. Towns has that energy that you want to see from a young player. Okafor carries himself more as an old soul, kind of how Tim Duncan carries himself. It's very interesting, but I do think it will affect his draft ranking.
So other names that declared for the draft, D'Angelo Russell right now
Mhm.
of Ohio State, who didn't make a huge run in the tournament, was definitely a name in there. Where do you see him going?
Yeah, another one of those one and done guys. Didn't have a lot around him this season, but he made some spectacular plays. He's one of those point guards who doesn't need to score to be effective because he can pass so well, and he can facilitate, even for a point guard. But I definitely see him with a top 5 pick, without a doubt. Probably as high as 3, but I don't think he's going to crack the top 2 because Okafor and Towns look like, the top 2 picks.
Yeah, I think it's going to depend on a lot on what the teams who get the top 5 picks need. I think he will be the first point guard taken though out of the draft. That's for sure.
Yeah, right now I see him in that 3 to 5 range. Definitely going to be after the 2 big men, I think. But you never know in the draft where you can see a guy fall. So he could be the guy. Also looking back at Wisconsin now, Frank Kaminsky declares for the draft. Where do you guys see him ending up?
I think he's going to be one of those mid-first round picks. Could get into the lottery, but probably towards, maybe 15 to 20. He's a great player, but a great college player. And that doesn't always translate to the NBA for a guy who is not as quick maybe as you need to be in the NBA, but he's still a knockdown shooter for a big man, which is very impressive. But if you want to bring up some names that turned into busts, guys like Tyler Hansbrough, guys like Adam Morrison, who were at the top of the college game and didn't work out in the NBA. So I don't think that's going to happen for Kaminsky, but he's probably a role player in the NBA.
Yeah, I see Frank ending up somewhere in Detroit, the Pistons, as a role player. I think he'll fill a good spot there. And that's how I see him being drafted, 10 to 15.
I right now pegged him in my 7 to 17 range. I know that's a weird number, but 7 to 17 is where I see him. He's probably going to be in there, in that pick, but you take a look back at the history of shooting big men, Magic Johnson for one, and he could be the next Dirk Nowitzki, you don't know, and of course he's got the beard that would definitely match. Looking ahead to Tyus Jones, who really had a huge championship game, how did his stock increase?
Well, it rose, but I don't know if it rose into the first round. He still might be a second round pick, but for whoever gets him in the second round, it's going to be a good pick. It's a guy who, like I said earlier, he pretty much carried Duke, especially in that championship game, made big shots. He's not afraid to shoot with the clock running down. And I think he's going to be a good point guard, but again, maybe a backup role player. I don't know if he's a starting point guard in the NBA. You look at all the great point guards in the NBA even now with Lillard and Steph Curry and Russell Westbrook, and I don't think Tyus Jones is one of those guys.
Yeah, especially when you have someone like Emmanuel Mudiay coming over from China. He was spoken about last year. Unfortunately, he had to take a year off out of high school. What do you guys think? Has he developed his game? Where do you think he'll be ranked in the draft coming over?
Yeah, a guy like Mudiay coming from, not playing college basketball, sometimes the transition is tough. The other guy I can sort of equate it to is Brandon Jennings, who played overseas and then came back because he didn't want to go to college, and Mudiay didn't want to take the college route. So I think Mudiay is going to be a top 5 pick. He is a big point guard, a great passer, not an incredible shooter, and that's the one thing he needs to work on. But again, like you said earlier, Mike, it's going to depend on the teams that are drafting that high if they're going to need a point guard. But he's one of those, top 5, top 6, almost, can't miss guys.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, Mudiay is definitely a top 5 pick. He's probably going to end up falling in between that 3 to 5 spot. He's definitely not going to go ahead of the 2 big men. And it's probably going to end up going based on needs. Whether you need a point guard, you're going to take D'Angelo Russell, but if you need a big man, you're going to end up taking Mudiay. With the week in the books in the MLB, if we take a look at how the local teams are doing, it seems that Alex Rodriguez is carrying the Yankees offense, something that we didn't expect.
Yeah, but I think that A-Rod might have expected this because, hey, listen, he had the whole season off last year, although he wasn't taking a vacation. He was suspended. But he comes back and he looks ready to play and he wants to put the haters in their place. And right now, he's the best player on the Yankees.
Yeah, I haven't heard that since 2009. But yeah, it's hard to say. He is leading the Yankees. They're 2-4 right now, though, so not much of a hurrah to do. But so they're last in their division, 2-4. But yeah, he's leading them.
Yeah, it seems that every time he steps up to the plate, he hits it deep into the outfield, which is pretty great for him with that comeback trail that he is having. He's definitely going to go get some booze now, though, as he heads out onto the road into Baltimore. What's the reaction going to be like?
I kind of feel like even opposing fans have to sort of like him because he's still a spectacle. I mean, you want to see what this guy does. And now, 1 home run so far in the season, only 5 more till he ties Willie Mays with 660 home runs. So A-Rod, I mean, he's definitely up there as one of the best players of all time.
Yeah, well, he's only 5 home runs away from tying it with an asterisk. But sure, we can say that. Actually, Barry Bonds is saying he doesn't understand why everyone's giving A-Rod all this hate. He's just trying to make a comeback. He's trying to be an honest player.
But Barry Bonds saying that is
I know.
Not
it's like Mark
credible.
McGwire, Sammy Sosa, all of them
Not
saying.
credible.
Of course. But a credible source who did come out and speak about it was Willie Mays himself, who said that he would applaud it because records are meant to be broken. And so I thought that was an interesting tidbit, him giving his approval to A-Rod. Now looking over to the other side of Manhattan, you have in Queens, the Mets, Henry Mejia got caught and suspended for illegal substances. He's suspended for 80 games. How is that going to hurt their chances?
Yeah, that's a surprise because I don't think anybody expected that, but it happens. Guys get suspended, guys take PEDs, and he looks like a guy who did it. He was already on the DL for the season with some shoulder strain. So Jerry's Familia was taking over for him, and Familia looks like he could be a solid closer. But yeah, the Mets still miss Mejia, but he's a guy who, I mean, his career was kind of in flux. He took over as closer last season, but a converted starter, sort of a middle reliever, so doesn't really have a set spot in the rotation or in the bullpen.
Does this hurt their playoff chances?
I don't think so. I think the biggest injury to them, or biggest loss of games to them, was Zach Wheeler needing Tommy John for them this season. Anything else that happens will seem kind of minor, unless one of their star hitters goes out or Matt Harvey, God forbid, gets injured again.
Yeah.
So, and the Mets are actually starting out okay right now. They are 3-3, 500 even. They won their opening day, as is usual.
Bartolo Colon on the mound.
Yeah, Bartolo Colon, 41. Got his first RBI in 10 years yesterday. Sunday, actually. So, maybe he's trying to prove something.
Yeah, I mean, he's not really a threat at home plate when he's at bat, but
Of course.
hey, the RBI helps. But yeah, and they won Matt Harvey's first start.
Yeah.
I mean, how good was Matt Harvey? If he could pitch like that all season,
Lights out.
Cy Young, looks like
Almost
it could be
hands
his.
down, yeah, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, looking at around the league right now, we have 2 undefeated teams at 6-0. Tell us about that, Mike.
Well, they're in the same division, the AL Central, the Detroit Tigers and Kansas City Royals. Everyone was kind of underwhelmed by the Royals coming into this season, and here they are 6-0. I think it sucks for both of them that they're in the same division, but it's early in the season yet. We'll see how long they can keep this up. It's certainly exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, the Tigers, we expected them to be good.
Mhm.
Miguel Cabrera looks incredible right now, and their pitching, even without Max Scherzer, has been pretty solid. But the Royals, 100%, in my mind, it's a carryover effect from the World Series, because you have Moustakas, who's hitting very well. You move him into the 2-hole, and then you have Eric Hosmer, who's hitting well. You have Alex Rios, who they acquired, who's hitting well. You have Kendrys Morales, who they got in the offseason. I mean, the Royals just can't make a wrong move right now, and they look to be one of the top teams in the American League.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I see them taking that wild card spot, definitely. I do see the Tigers still as that dominant team in that division, and I think that their success will continue.
Yeah, as good as the Royals bullpen is, they still need to pitch.
Right. Well, an interesting thing is everyone coming into the season thought, the Nationals would have the best rotation in the MLB. That's not turning out to be true so far. Yes, they have under a 3-team ERA right now through the 6 games, 1 rotation. But the Royals, the Tigers, and the Braves, I think, all have better ERAs this season so far.
Yeah, well, the Nationals, they can pitch. All right, Max Scherzer, an ERA under 1 in his first 2 starts.
Mm-hmm.
But they can't score runs for any of these guys.
No.
So no matter how well you pitch, Jordan Zimmerman, Gio Gonzalez, Steven Strasburg, you gotta score runs to win games. And the Nationals can't do it right now. They lost Anthony Rendon earlier in the year. They had to place him on the DL. They don't know when he's going to be back. You need Bryce Harper to step up. You need Ian Desmond to step up. But they need to score runs because that pitching is going to be good all year. And they can still win the NL East. But you got to score runs.
I still think that this is their division to lose. I really think that they will get it together. I mean, we're talking about this a week into the season. There's how many weeks? And so they'll get it together over the months, and they should go on.
But still, the
to
offense
winning it.
doesn't look very good. But they do have Jason Worth coming back this week.
Sure.
Denard Span probably back in a week or 2. But you mentioned Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
They trade Craig Kimbrell the day before the season, and everybody thinks complete rebuild. They're throwing the season away, and here they are in first place in the NL East, behind that pitching, like you said, and Nick Markakis was a good addition for them. sort of a veteran guy in the middle of that lineup. So Atlanta, I don't know how far they can go, but yeah, they look pretty good right now.
Yeah, it would be a good replacement for the Atlanta Hawks. So far, it's a good transition.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely
First
would be.
and first.
That you mentioned that. But you also mentioned they traded Kimbrel the day before the season starts. You know, what do you think's going through their minds over there when you trade, you know, this perennial all-star for, you know, a bag of pucks, as we say in hockey. You know, but you give away, you know, your top guy as well as Melvin Upton, who seemed to be unhappy there, didn't really have a good year last year, now is reunited with his brother. So what do you think that they were thinking?
Well, Atlanta, I think they were selling. You know, they were selling. They're sellers, and they thought they were gonna rebuild this team, but you know they're playing better than they thought. But from San Diego's perspective, you know that's an incredible trade. You get probably the best closer in baseball. You add some outfield depth, and they're playing extremely well in the NL West. They played great in that opening series against the Dodgers, and then they beat the Giants, I think 2 out of 3. So, you know, the Padres are a team that you really have to look out for this year.
I would agree. Young team, good rotation. They made all of the right moves in the offseason.
Yep. Now moving back to the American League, you look at the AL East. Boston Red Sox in first place right now. Their pitching's still a question, but yeah, that lineup is deadly.
Yeah, you mentioned their rotation. We're really not sure who the ace is over there right now. Clay Buchholz was one that was supposed to be. However, he got blown up yesterday by the Yankees, Sunday night that is. And so, what do you see of him or this early into the season?
Yeah, Buchholz has always been a question for them. He's a guy who 1 year, I think he was in Cy Young contention. He had a great ERA that 1 year, but he hasn't been able to carry that over. But the Red Sox, write this down. If they can get Cole Hamels, they're going to the World Series. Write it down, Mike.
Write it down.
Cole Hamels would give them, obviously, a frontline starter, the ace that they need. The offense could stay intact. They have so much outfield depth. They have probably 8 guys, and then not even to mention Rusney Castillo, who they're going to bring up. So they could trade any of those guys and go out and get a pitcher. I think that's what they need to do.
The Masters was this past weekend, and what an exciting Masters it was. We saw the return of Tiger Woods to a more elite level. We saw a young kid win the Masters. 21-year-old Jordan Spieth at 18 under set a 54-hole record, tied the 36-hole record, and tied the overall record on that course. Led start to finish. It was a fantastic performance to watch. What else did you see?
Yeah, he was a popular pick coming into the Masters because he was getting so hot before that tournament, and he had been playing well. And the thing I was surprised by was that, like you said, he led start to finish. He didn't look rattled at all, right? And you go into the biggest stage in your sport, playing the Masters, as a 21-year-old, and nobody could shake his game or his confidence. And he was just knocking down shot after shot. I think he had, the most birdies ever for a Master as well. So Jordan Spieth, just an incredible tournament. And hey, I called out Tiger Woods last week. I said he wasn't going to make the cut, but he did make it. He looked like
he made it. He looked pretty good.
Yeah.
Finished top 10.
I thought that Spieth him winning is great for golf, and you have all these young kids now coming up. Rory McIlroy for one, when he overtook Tiger Woods for that top spot. So Spieth winning, setting all these records, definitely great for the golf sport. You mentioned Tiger Woods saying that he dislocated his wrist and he popped it back into place. It seems that he's aging, and he now has many excuses of why his performance isn't up to, you know, the potential that he used to be at. Do you see this as just another excuse?
I don't really see it as an excuse. It looked like a real injury. I don't know if he actually popped it back into place and played through it, but I just don't see Tiger Woods returning to that level that he was at, you know, the elite level anyway.
It was very nice to see how well he performed after working so hard. That is a real concern that he is getting older. He is becoming a little more fragile. What he did, he hit the tree root. Very hard to recover from that. It's like a big stinging, like when you foul off a ball in baseball wrong. You know, so it does hurt. It is hard to come back from. I can understand where he was coming from with that. And you're right, he may not get back to the elite level. But at least, I don't know how long he has left in his career, but he'll finish it out with some dignity if he continues to play like this amidst all the scandals that were in the last couple of years.
So who is this next guy? Is it still Rory McIlroy, or is it now going to be Spieth?
I think it's both of them. It's the new version of Woods Mickelson, is what I think it is. You know, Spieth is younger, Rory a little more experienced. They're both super hot. They're both likable players. So I really think it's just the next generation of that. You know, there was Nicholas Palmer, Woods Mickelson. I think now it's Spieth, McIlroy.
Phil and Tiger.
Yeah, something that golf needs.
It's going to be great for ratings, great for the game, and it's going to definitely lead us into the future. From all of us here at BSPN, Brett Malman, Jeremy Bella, and Mike Bergner. We'll see you next week.